Beer Guys Radio Show on demand is brought to you by Truck and Tap. Food trucks, craft beer, not your ordinary bar and restaurant. In downtown Woodstock. Online at truckandtap.com. The Beer Guys Radio Show. Saturday afternoons at 1 on Atlanta's AM 920. The Answer. Streaming to the world at beerguysradio.com. Proudly broadcasting from the AM 920 studios in Buckhead, Atlanta. It's the Beer Guys Radio Show. The only radio show in the South dedicated to art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer. Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Aaron Williams.
And just as the man said, it is the Beer Guys Radio Show. Welcome back to another weekend. I'm Aaron Williams.
I'm Tim Dennis.
Hey, man, we had a great week. Nice and warm for once.
Gorgeous week.
It's been absolutely beautiful, and I'm really excited about these 70-degree temperatures. I'm not so excited about the pollen, though.
It's coming.
Ugh, that is the worst.
Good old Atlanta springtime.
I know. But, you know, this is the time of the year when you transition from porters and stouts to IPAs and pale ales, and it makes me happy.
I've joked with friends about patio season in Atlanta. You got to catch that 2-week period before it's too hot, before the pollen comes, all that. So,
yeah, exactly. This is like the sweet spot. We've got
patio season.
Yeah, we're done, and then it's going to be all pollen, and then it's going to be gross. Welcome again to the Beer Guys Radio Show. BeerGuysRadio.com is our website. You can reach us at Twitter at Beer Guys Radio, Untapped, Facebook, Instagram, even on YouTube. We've been posting some videos. It's been pretty fun doing that. 678-861-8ALE is our ale line. You can give us a call there. Aaron at BeerGuysRadio.com. Tim D at BeerGuysRadio.com. And finally, this week in Georgia beer, head to BeerGuysRadio.com, sign up, and win some awesome swag, and, of course, get some great information from Tim's list of Georgia beer happenings. Speaking of, we've had a lot of things going on this week, haven't we?
It was a busy week.
It has been.
Busy, but good times.
Absolutely. Truck and Taps Beers of the Week, by the way. We are going to be talking with a couple of folks from outside of Georgia. Our topic is Georgia's neighbors this week. Back 40 from Alabama. Jason Wilson, the president's going to join us here in the next segment, and I'm looking forward to this guy from Wicked Weed.
Right.
We are super excited to have him on board.
He said he's going to bring us a selection of beers to try from Wicked Weed.
Yes, and that's going to be our Truck and Tap Beers of the Week, so...
Good stuff.
It'll be fun. I love my Georgia breweries. I love all the Georgia breweries, but I tell you what, Wicked Weed may be my favorite brewery from out of state right now.
And they're being generous to Georgia. When they first got, I think it was October when they came into the state, and we're seeing a lot of their beers now. A lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, speaking of, you had one of their beers last week. You said it was fantastic.
I did. It's a style that I've actually wanted to brew. I do a lot of saisons, brew a lot of saisons. I've mentioned that before, and I've thought that a gin barrel would be an interesting barrel for a saison. And so this is a gin barrel ale from them, gin barrel sour with I don't remember if it's raspberries or blackberries, but there's berries in it. Mm-hmm. So it's tart. The gin is light but noticeable. Really, really excellent beer. I enjoyed that one a lot.
Yeah, that's the Ramble Barrel, right?
Ramble Barrel.
Yes.
That's it.
Are you a martini guy?
Used to be
gin martini guy?
Dirty martinis. Yeah. I used to.
Yeah, I like them too. So
I just drink beer.
No, me too. But
bourbon.
I like that ginny juniper-y kind of taste, and so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to trying that too as well. You had some other good ones out
I
there
did.
too. Yeah.
So I tried another one that's pineapple sculpin, and that's sculpin. The regular sculpin's a little intense for me. That's a little too hoppy. The pineapple was really nice. It was kind of mild, but noticeable. It played really well in there. I wasn't sure what to think of that, but that was really good. Lots of beers at Tiny Palooza, which we did live last week.
That was great. That was a fun
we both,
time.
I think we both checked quite a few off the list.
Definitely,
there,
definitely.
And then a little local one that I did and have posted a video review of up on the site. The Red Brick Hypewell, which is their Imperial Stout aged on bourbon barrel oak chips.
Yeah.
And that's check the review to see what I thought of that.
Yeah, it should be fun. I know. And speaking of, by the way, I did a review as well. I wasn't as cool and did the Red Brick Hypewell. I did kind of more of an everyday, every man's beer. Grumpy Old Men, their Aska Pale Ale, of course, a nano brewery up there in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Check out my review on BeerGuysRadio.com as well. But at Tiny Palooza, I tell you, their list was incredible. You said it was one of the best ones you've seen.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, and I was able to check off a lot of whales on my list, too. AleSmith, of course, one of my favorite breweries out of San Diego. They had the Speedway Stout and, of course, the Hawaiian Speedway Stout. Fantastic. Three Floyd Zombie Dust Pale Ale. Westbrook Mexican Cake. I'd never had that before, and amazing.
It's great beer.
Oh, my goodness. That was by far one of the best things I've had in a while. And finally, another one that I checked off my list. It wasn't a whale, so to speak, but Wicked Weed's Milk and Cookies. I'd been wanting to try that, never got a chance to, and they had it on tap there, so I was able to find it. It was fun.
Yeah,
so
I mentioned this, as we were drinking it last week, but they had a couple from New Glarus there, which I absolutely love. They had the raspberry sour, raspberry tart. I really like that, and they had one called Scream, their IPA, which was really nice.
Yeah.
So did you try that one?
I didn't get a chance to try that one, actually. So, but I'm going to have to come back, though. But again, thanks to the guys at Lincoln Fill Station in Snellville and the Tiny Palooza guys for having us out live on Saturday. And we're going to be live.
We've got the Kennesaw Depot Park Beer Festival.
That's right.
That's April 2nd. We'll be broadcasting live from there.
So, we're going to have fun up there in Kennesaw in your neck of the woods. Some great beers.
It's going to be a great festival. The list keeps growing. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, we are. We're going to be giving away some tickets to that, too. So stay tuned, not only here, but also online for more information on that. Speaking of more information, we've got some news, and unfortunately, we have to start off with more law news.
Law news.
I hate law news.
It seems to go a constant battle here.
It is. And we had H.R. 1345. It's been discussed in committee this week. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Tim?
So that didn't make it up to the Special Rules Committee. I didn't get to make it down there to see it live, but they have a stream that I was able to watch. The audio wasn't that great online, so, trying to make it out. But overall, it seemed fairly positive, the responses there.
Now, just remind us, what is the H.R. 1345?
So H.R. 1345 is a resolution to create a study committee, a House study committee on the competitiveness of craft breweries and distilleries in Georgia as it compares to our neighboring states.
Okay.
And what it is to see, things that maybe we can improve on, or maybe some things that we're doing right, that other states are not doing, and just making sure that we are as competitive as we can be in the state of Georgia with our neighbors in those industries.
And
so
we're doing a lot of things wrong. Hint.
We are. Hint. Spoiler alert.
Exactly.
So it went up for the Special Rules Committee. Some pretty positive response to it. Positive comments. One rep mentioned. Representative Rakestraw actually mentioned that she has a constituent in her district that has a brewery that's very near to the Alabama state line, and that they've mentioned that they could move across the state line and make a lot more money.
Yep.
And so she's interested in this study committee because she doesn't want a brewery to move out of state.
Yeah,
so,
it's funny, actually, at Tiny Palooza, I talked to a gentleman who's got a nano brewery just kind of starting up in Snellville. He says he's got property in South Carolina, and he's thinking about moving there because the laws are so much better over there, too.
A couple of years ago, when a lot of this insanity started, I heard breweries talking about, the possibility of moving. I'm like, no, you got to stay in. You got to dig into your state. And then, but as it goes on, and I know a lot of these breweries probably have been fighting this for many years, so they got to this point, and it's easy for me to say that since I'm not trying to start or own a brewery. Yeah. But it's, it's got to be tempting. It really does. As much as you love Georgia, it's got to be tempting.
Yeah, especially if you're in one of those border cities, for example, like Augusta, it would be just easy to go across the river and do your job in South Carolina. Yeah, so what else is going on with this bill?
Yeah, so it's it was heard in the Special Rules Committee today. That fairly favorable the comments that were made. Another representative mentioned that she's not personally a beer drinker, but she understands from the commerce side of things the importance of the study committee and being competitive with our neighbors. Yeah. So there was one rep that said he has a lot of concerns about access to alcohol by underage drinkers, and didn't seem overly impressed with us trying hard to sell more beer, basically. Yeah. So there were some concerns.
Yes.
So
I know that there's a wave of underage kids going to brew pubs trying to get in.
That's right.
Yeah, yes. I know that's sarcasm.
It's a big problem,
by the way.
Yeah. So, but overall, a very positive response.
Sure.
It seemed to be, quite positive there. So hopefully things will move along.
Yeah, baby steps. Hopefully the more that we get informed, the more kind of pressure we can put on to our lawmakers, the closer we're going to get to actual good working beer laws that can grow this business in the state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of growing business, actually, some good news out of Augusta. I didn't realize that was our second largest city in Georgia.
I didn't either.
They have 0 brew pubs right now, or 0 breweries.
Right.
That's going to change. Savannah River Brewing Company is coming to Augusta. You reported on that on beerguysradio.com earlier this week. Can you tell us more about that?
Got to talk to a couple of the guys over there. So they've got a very large facility, as a lot of breweries do, and we've talked about this with other breweries, Aaron, how they get kind of run down areas and revitalize them. Yeah. So they've got a 21,000 square foot warehouse over there.
That's huge.
That they're having to put a lot of work into, to revitalize it, build out. They're going to have, I believe it was a 6,000 square foot tasting room. The rest of it will be dedicated to the brewing facility there. But they said they hope to be kind of the destination there, the hometown brewery in Augusta.
Very cool.
So, and they'll be the second one. River Watch should be opening soon. And that's something we'll talk a little bit more about some beers coming from them. But, so Augusta's finally kind of filling in some gaps on the Georgia beer map there.
Yeah, and the brewmaster there, Mark Walters, apparently used to be the head brewer at Abita in Louisiana, so he's got some bona fides coming in here, too.
Yeah, he's got brewing experience. He's done a lot of building out brew houses. He's been in the industry a long time, so he brings a lot of expertise there to Augusta.
Yeah, and another brew pub that's opening up pretty quickly here, too, in Atlanta, Torch Top. They just looks like they're close to opening as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that one out.
Too.
I've been following along on Facebook. seeing the pictures they're posting, and it looks like it's going to be a really awesome space. We've met the guys and chatted with them, super nice guys. Mm-hmm. So excited to see that one. They're getting really close. I know they're looking to fill in the front of house and back of house positions. And, just ready to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of making it happen, our neighbors up in Charlotte are making it happen. Southern Tier and Victory Brewing have joined forces, and their new facility will be based in Charlotte. So, hey, guess what? They're going to have a 50-barrel brewery, and it's going to create about 30 to 50 jobs. And thanks again to Georgia lawmakers. That job, we've been completely kicked out of that job opportunity, and now it's going up north.
I'm sure we weren't even in consideration
Absolutely
for that one.
Not. So again, thank you so much for that. And finally, in our news segment, I've got some sad news, Tim.
I knew this, Aaron.
Yeah.
This wasn't breaking news to me.
You just ask my wife, by the way. There's been some reports out there, and of course you probably saw it on the socials, that people who like IPAs are psychopaths.
I tell you. And they said something about black coffee, too, right?
Yeah, and I like both. So
I know a lot of people that like IPAs and black coffee, so.
Don't get in my bad side.
That's
Tim.
Right.
You don't like me when I'm angry.
Like
Yeah, so that's maybe I need some therapy for my IPA addiction, but they haven't had anything about people who like tart saisons or farmhouse ales.
Take
so
2 stouts and call me in the morning. That's a therapy for that. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You've been listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We got to take a little break, and we'll be right back.
What's on tap? The beer guys know. More after this.
This is Tim and Aaron from the Beer Guys, and here's the deal. You've got that one friend, that one you can never shop for. He's got all that cool stuff. Yeah, that guy.
Well, we found something that they don't have, but they're going to want. The Atlanta Brew Box is a Georgia craft beer experience to go. Each box contains tour passes, a t-shirt, and a bunch of other swag from our local breweries. It's fully customizable, and starting at only $40, it's a great gift idea.
It's unique, it's fun, and it is Atlanta. Head to beerguysradio.com, click the link on the right-hand side of our webpage, and that will get you there. It's the Atlanta Brew Box, the Georgia craft experience in a box.
It's Aaron and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock is always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy. They have 12 of them. Bottles, too. Not sure what to drink? All of their beer servers are Cicerone certified. And if you got someone who isn't a beer fan, not to worry. Truck and Tap carries wine, mixed drinks, and even handcrafted sodas.
As for the truck part, well, that's when it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks daily. That way, you're getting a different menu every day.
Check it out, Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Hey, welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I'm Aaron Williams.
I'm Tim Dennis.
And we've got a special guest on the line for us today. It is our Neighbors in Beer, this episode.
Georgia's Neighbors.
And we are talking on the line now with Back 40 Beer Company. Jason Wilson, the president and founder of Back 40. It's a great brewery over in Gadsden, Alabama. He is the president of the Alabama chapter of the Brewers Association, also a member of the Brewers Association Government Affairs Committee. So we've got a lot of interesting things to chat about for today. Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
For those that may not be familiar with Back 40 Brewing Company, could you just tell us a little bit about the background of the brewery?
I'm a fifth-generation Alabamian. I was born and raised in Gadsden. My family's been in this area for a long time. So I had a wonderfully happy, what I considered to be middle-class upbringing, and went off to Auburn University to get my degree. And it wasn't until I got there that I realized that I probably grew up a lot closer to the poverty line than I ever realized. My brother did the stereotypical, 2 years as a ski instructor out in Colorado, pretty early on, I was able to go out and crash on the couch with my brother, and I got exposed to the craft beer, movement in Colorado back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I came back to Auburn and finished up my degree, and always just kind of had craft beer in the back of my head. And at the time, of course, Sierra Nevada was probably the only true craft beer representation in the Deep South. And then, of course, towards the mid to late 90s, Sweetwater came on board, and that was a breath of fresh air, of course. But I went to work for Georgia Pacific and worked in a few different locations and ended up there in downtown Atlanta. And I worked there in the corporate office at GP for about 4.5 years. And I was in a meeting one day with the CEO of GP at the time, Pete Carell, before they were bought out and privatized. But I was a logistics and supply chain guy. So we had just bought a big manufacturing facility, and we were talking about how that, the layout and the process flow of the manufacturing and everything. And apparently I'd made several references to how breweries worked. I was lucky. I was young and single and had a little bit of discretionary income after college, so I got to travel a lot, and I'd seen a ton of breweries, and apparently I'd made several references. So he stops me in the middle of this giant board meeting and says, "Jason, how many brewery tours have you been on?" and this is the first time I ever actually tried to count it up in my head, and it was well over 200 and something at that point. And this was 2004, 2005, and he said, "Well, maybe this is a little more than a hobby for you."
Right.
And so that was really honestly the kick in the pants that I needed to try to start moving my dream forward. And so I started grinding out and doing everything that it takes to make that leap from, the stability and certainty of a corporate paycheck over to the total chaos and uncertainty of entrepreneurship.
Jason, so at that point, you actually started as a contract brewer, is that correct?
Yeah, man. I knew that we didn't have the money to build a brewery, so I reached out to several breweries in the Southeast and ended up striking up a conversation with Lazy Magnolia, Leslie and Mark Henderson down in Kiln, Mississippi. Amazing people, and I owe so much to them. We were in a little bit of a unique situation. I had befriended a world-class, very highly regarded brewmaster along the way in my travels, Jamie Ray, and he was actually retired at the time, living on a horse farm in Union Springs, Alabama. And so we had a brewer. We had a very talented brewer. We had a very talented kind of core staff together. So they essentially worked out a deal where they agreed to leave the key under the mat for us on Friday afternoons. Yep. And I would make the drive from Atlanta, and I would pick Jamie up outside of Montgomery, and we'd brew all weekend, and then I would make the late night drive back Sunday night to Atlanta in time to get to work Monday morning, until we were able to prove the business model, of course, and show some pretty impressive growth, relatively speaking. And we secured an SBA small business loan, and I snatched up an old historic abandoned 27,000 square foot building right here in our downtown historic district, and started the transition to production brewing ourselves. So we spent pretty much all of 2011 renovating our space while still contract producing at Lazy Magnolia. And late 2011, our equipment finally showed up, and we brewed our first batch actually on New Year's night of 2012.
What are some of your most popular beers that you offer there at Back 40?
Well, Truck Stop Honey, which is an English-style brown ale that we've been brewing since early 2010. We call it Truck Stop Honey because the first apiary that we worked with to get the raw Alabama honey that we use in the recipe primarily sold his honey at truck stops and gas stations, so we called it Truck Stop Honey. It wasn't until a little later that we realized the double entendre in the deep south.
Yeah, right.
I picked it up immediately. I must have a dirty mind.
Yes.
Of course. Anyway, so that's really probably the closest thing we have to a flagship beer. We won a silver medal for that one at the GABF in 2010. And then we have Naked Pig Pale Ale, which is actually the first beer we put out. That's a classic American pale ale. Freckle Belly IPA, our trade day Cuban coffee stout. That's a winter seasonal that we brew with Cuban style espresso coffee. And then we do Pawpaw's Peach Wheat, which is spring and summer seasonal that we brew with local Chilton County peaches here in Alabama. So I know the Georgia market can appreciate a good.
Absolutely.
Definitely. That Cuban coffee stout's right up our alley, I think, too.
Yeah, that's one I'd like to try. Saw that on the website really today. I want to check it out.
Great. I'm typically not a coffee beer drinker, but our brewers did a fantastic job, and I enjoy one on a regular basis now. So if they can win me over to a style that I'd otherwise dismissed, I give them a lot of credit for that.
Now, real quick here, we got a couple more minutes left with Jason Wilson from Back 40 Beer Company over in Gadsden, Alabama. You're one of the members of the Brewers Association Government Affairs Committee. What about your fight? I mean, you've got a little bit more progressive laws than we do over here in Georgia. How did that come to pass?
Here in Alabama, we've passed 5 pieces of legislation in the last 7 years, and it's been difficult, but we learned something early on, which is, when you get a bunch of passionate entrepreneurs together, the tendency is to kind of kick the door open and say, there's a terrible injustice happening here. Give us what we want, or we're going to burn this mother down,
Right.
And we learned very early on that that's rarely successful in the legislative arena. So we've taken an approach of just trying to kind of chisel away at really small victories, get in and out of there before anybody ever even knows you're there, and just try to chip away and do things that are going to better our industry. And as a result, when we started in 2009 here in Alabama, we were one of 2 microbreweries in the state, brewing institutions of any kind. And today we've got 37 licensed operations in Alabama.
Wow.
And what that means is we've created a lot of jobs. We've added a bunch of members to our organization, the Guild here, and that gives us a larger voice in Montgomery, and it gives us a little bit more political capital to spend there in the legislature, and it's been a successful model for us. We're on the verge, hopefully here shortly, of passing an off-premise bill here in Alabama that will allow breweries to sell up to 1 case per person per day to go directly from the brewery. And, of course, we can already sample in our tasting rooms here, unlimited, no restrictions on hours of operations or format of serving or anything like that. So,
now, Jason, we're just about to run out of time here, so just one more quick question for you. Since we have a similar fight here, what advice would you give it to us in Georgia in this fight?
Honestly, we're in a very similar situation as far as the relationships that the wholesaler tier, the 3-tier system has with our government. You have to understand, when most of these laws were written, they were written at a time where there were no craft breweries in the state. The wholesalers were literally the only perspective that the state received on how to craft a lot of this language. So I think for us, where we've been successful is just educating our legislators. It's actually really refreshing. The assumption is these guys are kind of living on another planet, but if you can get in front of them and explain to them the challenges you have as a small business, and the key is to make sure you're organized, make sure you have a powerful state guild with, we have 100% participation in our Alabama State Brewers Guild, and I think that's critical, because if you can collectively gather as a voice of brewers, because here's the thing, brewers have fans. Wholesalers don't have fans. Retailers, as a general rule, don't
Great
have
point.
fans.
Yeah.
So the power of that network of brewers in every county and every different part of the state that can come together and reach out to their local fans and activate that culture and get them to call their legislators and share their opinions, that's critical. So if I could say anything, it's you got to have 100% participation from your member breweries, and I think you'll see a lot of results from that.
Excellent. Jason, thank you so much for talking to us today. We really appreciate it. We'd love to talk to you again in the future, see how things are going for you there.
You got it, guys. And, hey, we're finishing up on our content marketing area in the brewery now, which has a full recording studio, sound booth in there. So we'd love to host you at the brewery here in Gadsden. If you want to get away to a quiet town for a day or two and knock back a few pints, we'd love to have you.
You're calling our name out there. We'll definitely take you up on that.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Thank you much. You've been listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show, and we'll be right back with you.
Hi, this is Bob Sandage, owner of the Wrecking Bar Brew Pub. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show, Georgia Radio for Georgia beer.
Hey, it's Aaron from the Beer Guys Radio Show. Do you like craft beer? Of course you do. Make sure to mark your calendars, buy your tickets, and prepare to spend April 2nd at Kennesaw's historic Depot Park. No fooling here. It's time for the 2016 Depot Park Beer Fest, sponsored by the Kennesaw Downtown Development Authority and the Atlanta Shriners. Starting at 1 p.m. on April 2nd, you'll get to sample hundreds of rare beers from across Georgia and the country. Help celebrate Kennesaw's own Burnt Hickory Brewery's 4th birthday with more than 40 of their unique beers on tap, some that will only be available at the Depot Park Beer Fest. Plus rock music, great food, and we'll be broadcasting live from 1 to 2 p.m. It's a celebration of all things craft beer. The Depot Park Beer Fest, Saturday, April 2nd at Depot Park in Kennesaw. Get your tickets at Zorbia.com today. That's XORBIA.com, XORBIA.com, XORBIA.com. You won't want to miss this.
Home brewer? We want to know what you got on tap. Give us a call, 678-861-8ALE. Now, back to the Beer Guys.
And welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I'm Aaron Williams.
I'm Tim Dennis.
And you can reach us, beerguysradio.com, Twitter at Beer Guys Radio. We're on Untapped, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The ALE line is 678-861-8ALE. And, of course, Aaron at beerguysradio.com, Tim D at beerguysradio.com. And in the studio, we've got a special guest, don't we, Tim?
We do. So as we mentioned, this show this week is about Georgia's neighbors. So we're talking to some of our brewery neighbors today about the beer, that they bring to Georgia, talking a little bit about laws, a topic that is very important to Georgia beer fans and brewers. So we have Evan Crutchfield with us today. He is the National Sales Manager with Wicked Weed.
Awesome. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good,
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. So we wasted no time here today in cracking into some beers because Evan's brought some pretty awesome stuff for us to drink.
Yeah, Truck and Taps, of course, Beers of the Week, of the assortment, the melange of beers that it was brought here from Evan.
Yes.
The Pernicious IPA is
we're
drinking
drinking
right now.
a week-old Pernicious.
Yes.
Super
Fresh beer.
delicious beer.
Super fresh, yep. Brought it down, got it cold just for you guys.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it very much. So, well, Evan, I'm sure that a lot of people, most people that listen to our show, are familiar with Wicked Weed. There was a lot of excitement when you came to Georgia and that. Yeah. But for those that may not, could you just give us a little background on Wicked Weed?
Yeah. So Wicked Weed started about 3 years ago, a little bit longer than 3 years ago, December 2012. So we've been doing it in Nashville for a little while now. We started with our brew pub downtown. Started with 30 taps downstairs, about 20 taps upstairs. So we've been busy ever since we opened at the brew pub. It's been really awesome. A lot better response than we thought. That might be something to do with being a great location and having
that doesn't hurt.
Awesome taps and amazing food. But that's kind of where we were making our beer on a 15-barrel system for the first, couple years. We still make beer there. In 3 years, we've come up with over 400 different beers.
Wow.
Which is a lot. It's kind of averages out to 2 to 3 a week.
That's it. I'm always seeing something new from Wicked Weed.
Yeah, exactly. Every time I go to a bottle shop, I'm like, oh, there's a new Wicked Weed out. It just happens every time, which is great. Yeah.
That's kind of part of it. And then a lot of those came out of the pub in the beginning, and then we've been doing sour beer from the beginning, and a lot of the barrels that we had were kind of stored in a facility that was like 30 minutes outside of town. It was very difficult for our guys to fill the barrels and drive around everywhere. So about a year and a half after we opened, we got a new barrel house downtown, and we affectionately named that the Funkatorium.
Nice,
right?
So that facility's been really great for us. We expanded from about 300-400 barrels when we opened that spot to about 1,500 now. We got 3 fooders in there, and we got about.
So I'm gonna stop people. I know what that is, but what's a fooder?
So there's different kinds of wood vessels to age beer in or to age wine in. So normal size barrels are kind of typical. You can get a lot more surface area to volume ratio in those. But then we have some puncheons, which are kind of double size normal barrels. So when you walk into the Funkatorium and you look at all the barrels, those are the kind of big barrels that are lining the walkway. That's where we age a lot of our Angels in, which we'll talk about later, I guess.
Right. Yep.
And then fooders or foders are very large kind of wood tanks. So they can be different sizes, but they're a lot easier to clean, a lot easier to get into, and you can store a lot more beer in them. But since there's not that much contact area with the wood, it takes a little bit longer to age.
That's what I was going to say, which can actually be beneficial. You get the slow aging there rather than over oaking it, something too fast there.
Right. And like if you go out to New Belgium and or you go to, I don't know, like some Belgian breweries, you can just go and see fooder farms is what they call them.
Yeah.
I think New Belgium has something like 60. I think if you go to to some places in Belgium, you can see like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But we started with 1, and now we have 3, so we're proud of those. So that's the Funkatorium. We have 20 to. We have about 20 sour and funky beers on tap of the Funkatorium, and we got small plates there. So that's cool little spot to go if you like sour beer, if you like being in Asheville. And
so wait a minute, a very important breaking news.
Right.
You can actually serve food at a brewery?
Oh, yeah. And drink beer and buy beer, all there.
What?
So imagine all of North Carolina is just total chaos and bedlam, and the government's falling apart and all of that there, right?
Okay.
It's insane. Well, Asheville has kind of become like beer tourism capital of the South, I think, because we have around 40 to 50 breweries just in the greater Asheville area. I mean, I would say kind of western North Carolina, but, short 3-hour jaunt from here, a couple hours from Charlotte, a couple hours from Raleigh and Durham and Tennessee. So it's become kind of a place in the South to come and try out new beers and new breweries, and we have a lot there. So it's pretty easy to just walk from brewery to brewery, get some food, get some beer, and
it's a common weekend trip for Atlanta folks. You go up there, the scenery's gorgeous. There's plenty of beer. There's good food.
Well, I've lived in Asheville for a long time, since the early 2000s. So I've seen Asheville go from a town where there's 2 or 3 breweries and it would be dead in the wintertime to it's our pub is at capacity on the weekends now. Even if you come in for lunch, you're still kind of
that's great.
You still might have to wait at 1 o'clock to get a table. Same with the Funkatorium. Sometimes we might be at capacity, but the great thing about walking out of the front doors of the Funkatorium, in about a half mile, you can hit about 7 other breweries. There's actually it's the area where the Funkatorium is affectionately called the South Slope, and we have more breweries there than we have restaurants or bars or anything else. It's more breweries
a good ratio
per capita in this one little half mile area than probably most places in the South. So it's really cool. It's a really cool area. And then about, I guess, in June or July of last year, we opened our new production facility, and it's about a 50 barrel 4-vessel system. We got a lot of 100-barrel tanks, 200-barrel tanks, and we started packaging our Pernicious, which we just drank, and we started packaging our Freak. We started packaging all of our clean beers. And clean beers for us is anything that's not sour.
Not sour, right?
Right.
Yeah.
If we confuse people with saying that,
that's our clean beers. I don't want any dirty beers.
Exactly.
So,
those are the beers you take in the shower.
That's right.
To get clean. And we started making beer there, and then we've been self distributing in North Carolina since we opened. So that's kind of that's another difference in the Georgia and North Carolina.
Exactly. Now, do you do full distribution, self distribution in North Carolina?
We have been. This year, we kind of decided at the beginning of the year that Wicked Weed is we're focused on making beer. We want to focus on making beer, and we've kind of decided that we're going to hit. We're probably going to hit our cap that we could probably self distribute. North Carolina soon, and so we started going with distributors. Well, we first back in October picked Atlanta because it's 3 hours away. It's super super close.
Yeah, Atlanta.
So we started making all this awesome beer, and we're like, well, let's just send it to the closest biggest city, and we feel like Atlanta's coming up as far as the beer scene goes every day. So we started sending beer down to Atlanta, and then that pretty much brings us to now. 2016, where we've been signing with distributors and making a lot more beer. And our plans for 2016 is to open our 4th facility in 4 years. And
that's something I was going to note. So I didn't realize you guys started in December of 2012. So you guys have done all this in 3 years,
exploding.
So wow.
It's probably I've been in the beer industry for about 13 years this year. So, and I've worked at a lot of breweries, and it's probably the fastest growth I've seen at any brewery I've ever worked
amazing.
at.
What would you attribute that success for? Is it the quality of the product? Is it just the funkiness, the newness of it, or what?
I think it's the whole package. Yeah. I think we take a lot of care to make great beer. It's some of the best liquid I've ever had, and I still would probably I drink a lot of beer. I have a huge cellar at my house. I have a ton of beer. And I would still probably reach for Pernicious or a Freak over a lot of other beers. And I think the beer's great. We have a lot of variety, which the craft beer drinker these days just loves variety.
Yeah,
loves a new beer to get some excited about. And our branding is great. Our labels are cool. You usually put a story on the label, so it's something to read while you're sipping on the beer. It's a family-run company, and every person, every owner is in the brewery every day, looking at stuff, making sure the beers are good, making sure everything looks right. So there's care about every detail of the company, and it shows. I think people respect that. I think people kind of pick that up and can tell that if they're going to get a Wicked Weed beer, they're going to get something that's quality and that a lot of time and energy was put into it.
Awesome. Evan, we got to take a quick break. We definitely want to talk to you more and drink more of your beer. So
awesome. Yeah,
you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show, and we'll be back right after this.
Miss a show? No problem. Get the Beer Guys Radio Show on demand on the AM 920 The Answer mobile app, on iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Tim and Aaron from the Beer Guys, and here's the deal. You've got that one friend, that one you can never shop for. He's got all that cool stuff. Yeah, that guy.
Well, we've found something that they don't have, but they're going to want. The Atlanta Brew Box is a Georgia craft beer experience to go. Each box contains tour passes, a t-shirt, and a bunch of other swag from our local breweries. It's fully customizable, and starting at only $40, it's a great gift idea.
It's unique, it's fun, and it is Atlanta. Head to beerguysradio.com, click the link on the right-hand side of our webpage, and that will get you there. It's the Atlanta Brew Box, the Georgia craft experience in a box.
It's Aaron and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock is always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy. They have 12 of them. Bottles, too. Not sure what to drink? All of their beer servers are Cicerone certified. And if you got someone who isn't a beer fan, not to worry. Truck and Tap carries wine, mixed drinks, and even handcrafted sodas.
As for the truck part, well, that's when it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks daily. That way, you're getting a different menu every day.
Check it out, Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I'm Aaron.
I'm Tim.
And we are here in the studio with Evan Crutchfield, the National Sales Manager from Wicked Weed. And over the break, we enjoyed Freak of Nature, their double IPA. I loved it. I think it was a little bit much for you, Tim.
It was
right?
a little. You know what? This Pernicious was right up my alley.
Absolutely.
That's my wheelhouse.
Yeah, and that's their single IPA. But Freak of Nature, their double IPA, tons of hops in there. Again, if you're a hophead, if you're like I am, and a psychopath apparently, but it's yes. Fantastic.
We knew that without the IPA.
Well, that's
study,
also
though,
true.
So.
But now we've got another beer that we're tapping or uncapping that is kind of more up your alley, Tim.
Yeah, so that's Evan. You just shared with us a bedeviled golden Belgian style ale, right?
Yeah.
And you said this one hasn't released just yet.
It's about to.
It's about to come out.
I think that was bottled last week. Maybe.
Okay.
So we're we love our IPAs. We love our sour beers. That's pretty much what Wicked Weed is known for at this point in time. But we're going down some other alleys. We've always made Belgians. We've always made different style saisons. We've always, of course, done a lot of kinds of stouts and porters and all that kind of stuff. I mean, of course, with 400 different beers, you're going to do almost every style out there.
Sure.
But we kind of procured this Belgian yeast. Some of our head brewers went out there and went over to Belgium and tested a bunch of different Belgian yeasts and kind of brought this guy back. And it's really cool because, a lot of Belgian beers, you get a lot of those bananas and cloves, and you get kind of some of those strong flavors you get with like a wit beer or a white beer. And people might be a little bit shy from Belgian beers because of those really strong Belgian flavors that you typically get. So we came out with a 6-pack called Lunatic, which is just a golden blonde ale, Belgian blonde. Super nice, super drinkable. And Bedeviled is the kind of big brother of Lunatic, and a lot more alcohol. Lunatic's about 6, and Bedeviled's right around 9.
Yep.
And it does not taste like 9.
No, it doesn't.
Definitely not.
You get a little.
It is a very bold beer, though.
Oh,
I mean, the Belgian character in this is very pronounced. A lot of Belgian beers, especially the golden style, will be a little more. I don't want to say refined because that sounds like this is unrefined. This is just the flavors are just bold.
Right.
Yeah. So
right. Well, a lot of that comes from the alcohol. So it's the same yeast, a lot of the same ingredients as Lunatic, just a lot more grain and a lot more oomph to it. So you get, and with higher alcohol, you get a little bit more of those esters. You get a little bit more of those, kind of more strong flavors that Belgian beers are kind of part of. But, this guy's going to come out in 4-packs. It's a dangerous 4-pack. I would not recommend crushing a whole 4-pack by yourself.
This is session Belgian.
Yeah,
right?
no, it is not.
Yeah.
Not at all. But it's one of my favorite labels. One of our head bartenders at the Funkatorium kind of came up. He's kind of doing all of our Belgian labels, so they're a little bit different look than the typical Wicked Weed label, but it's really cool, and it's a whole new route for us. I don't think besides what is it, Reformation. That's one of your guys' locals. They do some great Belgians, and they're probably one of the best in 3 taverns. Those guys are both doing great Belgians. But
Reformation's my hometown brewery. I'm up in Woodstock, so they're our local guys.
Yeah, those guys are great, and the 3 taverns guys are great, and they're both making some great Belgian beers. And I think that might be kind of like the lager renaissance that everybody's talking about. Is that people are like, oh yeah, let's have some craft lagers. I think American craft Belgians. It's kind of like New Belgium's been doing forever.
Yeah,
right.
With their Abbey and their Triple and those kind of beers. I mean, I think it's a style that you either love or you're like, well, I'm not sure. But if you have the right beer, then you can get into Belgians pretty good. Yeah,
and speaking of Belgians, we're actually going to be at Brickstore Pub next week, one of the great Atlanta beer bars, and they specialize in Belgians. So it's tuned into our show next week, and we'll talk more about Belgians over there.
We talked to them in the Belgian bar there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great
Belgian
time.
Beers. It was a good time.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that spot.
It's
one of my favorites.
Yeah, my favorite too. So.
Now, is this one going to come to Georgia?
Yeah, it's actually probably on its way in the next couple weeks.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
So look for Bedeviled. Nice introduction to a Belgian style. If you haven't had it before, don't crush the whole 4-pack because you won't be going anywhere.
And Lunatic, too. Lunatic's going to be in 6-pack. So Lunatic and Napoleon are those 2 beers that are our first 6-packs. And Lunatic is that Belgian blonde that we're like, okay, well, let's just see how people respond to Belgian blondes. So both of those should be coming really soon. And they should be everywhere.
Sounds great, Evan. I appreciate it. We'll look for that one in stores. Lots of great selections from Wicked Weed. So we've moved right along here. We've got another one. You've brought us a lot of awesome stuff today. So we're actually moving on to a grisette that you brewed. It's called The Parking Lot. Now, this is a collaboration beer with Jester King, right?
Yeah.
So
Jester King's not distributed in Georgia. It's not distributed in North Carolina or anything like that, but they're good friends of ours. Probably one of my favorite breweries. We love them. We do stuff with them all the time. This is the first of many collaborations we're going to do with these guys, and we kind of came up with this beer doing some rock climbing, and this is kind of like, we call it Parking Lot because this is the beer that you have after you've been rock climbing all day.
I like it.
It's got a little bit of rock climbing chalk in it. It's got some spontaneous fermentation that we collected in a parking lot where the guys were climbing. And it's a nice, light, kind of funky grisette. It's a great beer. It's one of our favorites, and it'll probably be released down here in the next couple of weeks too.
So there's a beer that you're actually the pre-sales are today on it. It's a very popular part of a series you do, and I believe it's called Red Angel.
Yes.
Correct?
So the Angel series is one of our most sought after, most popular series. Very hard to get. You pretty much have to drive to the brewery to get them. We don't ship them anywhere. We don't let anybody have proxies to pick them up. You have to pretty much have a great friend that wants to drive to Asheville to come pick up some beer, or you order them online and you can come pick them up yourself. It's probably sold out by now, I would imagine. But if it's sold out by now and you're frantically looking online, you can come up to Wicked Weed the day that we release it, which is 2 weeks from today, and right at the end of the month, we'll have some left if you get in line early enough. And it's a fun line. We provide donuts and coffee.
Nice.
And we're nice like that. And so the Angel series, again, one of our most popular sought after series. We got the Red Angel, which is about 4 pounds of raspberries per gallon of beer, which is more raspberries than you can fit in a jug of liquid normally.
Right.
But we like to put a lot of fruit in our sour beers. So that's kind of what the Angel series is about, is putting a lot of fruit in the beers.
That's awesome,
man. We'll go ahead
Evan,
and get to this.
I appreciate it. While you're opening that up, first of all, Doug, really quick, this week in Georgia Beer, we got a giveaway to give
we do
as well.
So we got to blaze through this. You know what? We had a bunch of other stuff to talk about, but we just talked about beer instead.
I like
We're going to talk about your laws. So your laws are better in North Carolina than Georgia, right? There you go. We talked about the beer laws.
Easy enough.
So
Who's our winner today?
This a little more. Our winner this week is the Savory Spoon.
Awesome.
GA. So the Savory Spoon, congrats. We'll drop you an email, get some contact info from you, and we'll get you some awesome prizes out to you.
This week in Georgia Beer, what's going on?
This week in Georgia Beer, there's a lot of great stuff. So there's it's St. Patrick's Week. So coming up on St. Patrick's Day. So
drink your green beer.
Yes,
or
today in Waycross, they're having the St. Patrick's Festival. That's going to be at 5 p.m. So if you're ready to party there before before St. Patrick's Day gets started, you're down there in Middle Georgia. Check it out. So on Monday, Summits has a beer dinner at their Cumming location. On Tuesday, Summits has a beer dinner at their Snellville location. And I can't believe you guys are drinking the Red Angel while I'm going to
stop it right now. Have a drink of this thing.
I can't. I'm still working on the last beer.
It looks like cheerwine.
Man.
It is amazing, and I'm
this
sorry.
Is straight from the bottle.
This is fantastic. Sorry,
let me just tell people what are going on.
Go ahead.
You're over making faces about how good this beer is, and I'm trying to work here. So Thursday, there's a lot of stuff going on Thursday. We'll send out our Week in Georgia Beer. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to it. But there's Sweetwater has an event, Hashy St. Patrick's Day, a unique union at Reformation with several union variants, the St. Patty's Day at Gate City Brewing, where they're going to have beer tours and giveaways, St. Patrick's Day at Summits, Cumming, and Snellville. They have corned beef and cabbage and potatoes there for $2.16 a plate.
Nice.
So you can get that. The first annual St. Patrick's Day at Southern Sky. Check out the list if there's any others. We'll add them to it.
Absolutely.
So next Saturday, Swanee Beer Fest. Mark your calendars. Another big beer fest. Check that out. Some beer releases. I'm going to go over this real quick. Check our website for more info. But we've talked too much about Wicked Weed beer here today while we're drinking it. So
you can never do that.
Orpheus the Rights and Orpheus Transmigration of Souls cans. They're out there.
And
so
the Rights is a great beer too. Yeah.
So some ones that are coming up. River Watch over in Augusta. They've announced their initial releases. So check our website. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. There's a new one coming from Southern, a couple new ones from Southern. And I saw today that Three Taverns in Septus has a new label approval.
Very
so
cool.
I'm wondering if we're going to see that released again.
All right.
I've reached out to get some info on that, and we'll see. So non-Georgia beers, Brewery had a few come out. Brewery had one called So Happens It's Tuesday, which is a bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout that if it's still out there, you want to see if you can get some of that.
Oh, yeah.
Brewery, Maine Beer Company collaboration, Fourth Mill, which is a hoppy Belgian-style ale. Check that out. Omnipollo Abrahadabra with strawberry, vanilla, and lactose. Great beer there. Check that one out, too. I don't know that it's a great beer. But
it sounds like a great beer.
Omnipollo makes good beers.
Yeah.
I've actually had that beer, and as much as it sounds like a weird IPA,
right?
It's really good.
So there you go. It's a great beer.
It's almost like a strawberry smoothie IPA, if you can imagine it.
Okay.
Get your strawberry smoothie and your alcohol fix there in one.
That's awesome. All right.
So that's this week in Georgia Beer.
Excellent. We got to wrap it up. Evan, thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Yeah.
Cool. Next week, we'll be going to the Brick Store Pub, talking all things Brick Store at one of Atlanta's beer institutions. We're the Beer Guys, and we will talk to you next week. Find us online, beerguysradio.com, and all the socials. Again, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next Saturday.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Miss a show? All shows are on demand on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Tim and Aaron on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Beer Guys Radio. Call the Ale line at 678-861-8-ALE. More Beer Guys coming up next week. Same time, same place, same tap. Till then, here's to you.
Hey, it's Aaron from the Beer Guys Radio Show. Do you like craft beer? Of course you do. Make sure to mark your calendars, buy your tickets, and prepare to spend April 2nd at Kennesaw's historic Depot Park. No fooling here. It's time for the 2016 Depot Park Beer Fest, sponsored by the Kennesaw Downtown Development Authority and the Atlanta Shriners. Starting at 1 p.m. on April 2nd, you'll get to sample hundreds of rare beers from across Georgia and the country. Help celebrate Kennesaw's own Burnt Hickory Brewery's 4th birthday with more than 40 of their unique beers on tap, some that will only be available at the Depot Park Beer Fest. Plus, rock music, great food, and we'll be broadcasting live from 1 to 2 p.m. It's a celebration of all things craft beer. The Depot Park Beer Fest, Saturday, April 2nd at Depot Park in Kennesaw. Get your tickets at Zorbia.com today. That's XORBIA.com, XORBIA.com, XORBIA.com. You won't want to miss this.